It was supposed to be the first night of forever, a night of love, a night of trust, a night of forever. Instead, it turned into one moment of silence, one moment of fear, one moment of death. With the sun well up in a bright blue sky, a young bride lay lifeless in her wedding room, and the man sworn to protect and cherish her was nowhere to be found. This is a story of Arav Mehta and Naina Mehta. Arav was 28 years old, a successful software engineer in a coveted profession. His colleagues and friends were in awe of him for being so disciplined and understated. His upbringing influenced him in such a manner, since tradition dictated every single one of their decisions. His honor wasn't negotiable. Reputation meant everything to them. Arav had always been told that a man's reputation lay in how well he adhered to family tradition. Marriage, in Arav's culture, wasn't an emotion, but an obligation. Naina was 24, educated, soft-spoken, and reflective. She had just finished her degree in literature and had her whole life in front of her and a desire to make it mean something. She had a family which valued education and advancement, but did not undervalue tradition and custom. They were pleased with her acceptance of the proposal. Their marriage was the product of a careful consideration and deliberation from both families, and the marriage appeared ideal. On the day of the wedding, rioting colors and rioting joy burst forth. Lights at the venue beamed fiercely. Music reverberated in the atmosphere. Family members chuckled, danced, and gave their blessings. Naina walked towards the function in red, with her face flushed and her emotions mixed between nervousness and joy. Arav stood beside her with a composed face and masked emotions. Vows were exchanged, rituals completed, and families embraced each other. For all present, it marked a love story being written. But not all stories have an ending that matches up with the beginning. As night fell, the guests started to say their goodbyes to one another. Soon, the house grew still. Arav and Naina were led to their room, which had been rigged up for them on their first night together. The door shut out the sounds of merriment and left just hope in its wake. For Naina, this night is all about hope and anxiety. For Arav, this night is a huge responsibility. For Arav, this night is not just an individual issue, but a symbol of a tradition of beliefs nurtured over generations. A tradition of beliefs where a woman's honor is associated with her purity, and a man with his control. The result of this would always change everything. Something was amiss, not coming out quite right per Arav's expectations. But here, at this particular juncture of his life, when this reality stared him in the eye, all that he had built up through great effort over many years crumbled before his eyes. The very values he had never taken to question in a lifetime seemed threatened in these moments. His head was burred with shame. His dread of judgment swamped him. Being disrespected first enraged him with an anger beyond reason. Naina tried to speak. She tried to explain, but her words were drowned by Arav's anger. Allegations and charges flew from all corners. Voices were raised. A talk turned into an argument. Arav's anger rose because of some dogmatic beliefs inculcated in his psyche all these years. And then, in an irredeemable flash of violence, he lost control. A physical altercation occurred. Hands closed around Naina's neck. The fight did not last long. The room was silent. Morning arrived, and the bride lay still on the floor. Her marriage bangles were broken, and her clothes were disheveled. Symbols of happiness from the previous night now bordered a lifeless form. Arav was nowhere to be seen. With the knocking on the door by relatives, there was a sense of worry that soon turned into panic when there were no responses. The door was then burst open. What they saw will haunt them for the rest of their lives. Screams reverberated in echoes in the house. The police were called in, and the room was locked up. Forensics went over the room with a fine-tooth comb. The ligature marks on Naina's neck were indicative of premeditated murder. Arav immediately became a target for detectives. His disappearance immediately cast aspersions. Time and police interrogations with relatives and neighbors unraveled an alarming pattern. Deep-seated beliefs, coercion, and preoccupation with honor. A manhunt ensued. Days passed. The news spread like wildfire. People were begging for an explanation of sorts. Finally, Arav was found hiding in some other city with some distant relatives. He was caught and brought back. What he was saying during interrogation left senior interrogators with their mouths hanging. Arav confessed readily. He spoke about betrayal, shame, honor. He felt he had the right to do what he did. The man claimed that it was the only way out, as he had been pushed into a corner. Arav believed that the act was in tune with the code of conduct he had followed all his life. The whole court was in anxiety before the judgment of the case. The prosecution presented evidence rationally. The defense attorney tried to show emotional distress. However, the fact remained obvious. Arav got a guilty verdict with a life imprisonment term. But even this judgment did not bring peace. Naina's life went up in smoke, her future snuffed out. Her death kicked off a very necessary but very painful conversation in this country. How dangerous can a tradition become when it overrides humankind? This was not just a crime of passion. It was a product of the system that taught control rather than compassion, and honor rather than empathy. Some have even attributed the early death of Tucker to the arduous education. A wedding night turned into a crime scene, a promise into prison, and one young woman paid with her life. As an editorial in Tuesday's To See More True, truth is always more disturbing than fiction. Read below to see stories that show the worst side of human nature. Carry on with our other series, Crime Story, on Netflix, because the truth is always more disturbing than fiction.